The top 8 most dangerous male villains in cinematic history. Let's begin. 1. Norman Bates' Psycho, 1960. In 1960, Alfred Hitchcock took audiences into the theater and shattered every rule they believed in. Before Psycho, horror was found in ghosts, monsters, or an obvious enemy. After Psycho, horror became the quiet, polite neighbor who runs the local motel, enjoys taxidermy, and prepares a warm dinner for you. Norman Bates didn't just change a single film, he changed the way human beings look at one another. The quiet neighbor, the polite colleague, the shy young man living alone with his mother. They were never viewed the same way again after this cinematic milestone. Hitchcock was a genius at one specific thing, building your empathy for a character and then weaponizing that empathy against you. In the first third of Psycho, you follow Marion Crane, you sympathize with her, and you want her to survive. Then comes the iconic shower scene, a moment that shocked theaters worldwide because audiences never expected a film to kill off its protagonist halfway through. Suddenly, you find yourself empathizing with Norman as he hides the body. You want him to get away with it. That disturbing realization that you are rooting for the killer is one of the most profound psychological tricks the film plays on you. Inspired by real-life serial killer Ed Gein, Norman Bates was the first true cinematic embodiment of dissociative identity disorder in a way the general public could grasp. He became the archetype. If it weren't for Norman Bates, there would be no Michael Myers in Halloween, no Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th, and no killer hiding in plain sight subgenre. Hitchcock didn't make people afraid of monsters, he made them afraid of people, and that is far deeper and much more permanent. 2. Darth Vader, Star Wars: A New Hope, 1977. Before the modern cinematic villain existed, before all the murderers, maniacs, and tyrants that filled screens in the following decades, there was one character who forged the golden template for everything that would follow. A character who doesn't need a murder scene to instill terror, doesn't need to raise his voice to assert dominance, and doesn't need an introduction because the entire world recognizes him just by the sound of his breathing. Darth Vader, the Dark Lord of the Sith, the military commander of the Galactic Empire, the absent father, the man who was once a hero but chose the dark side. But what makes Darth Vader a legend rather than just a villain is his tragedy. Anakin Skywalker was the gifted boy, the chosen one prophesied to bring balance to the Force. However, the fear for those he loved, the seduction of power, and the masterful manipulation of the Emperor turned the hero into a tyrant. From 1977 to this day, Vader taught us that the greatest evil isn't born from a vacuum, it is forged from fear and love in the wrong moments. 3. Hannibal Lecter, The Silence of the Lambs, 1991. When we talk about psychological horror in cinema, one name stands above the rest. An eminent psychiatrist who speaks 5 languages, plays Bach on the piano, excels at drawing, reads Marcus Aurelius in the evening, and enjoys fine dining, where the ingredients are human. Hannibal Lecter is not just a serial killer, he is the epitome of civilized evil. The kind of evil that wears a tailored suit, sits in an opera house, and debates philosophy with you before making you his next meal. Anthony Hopkins was only on screen for 16 minutes in this film. Just 16 minutes, yet he won the Academy Award for Best Actor. That alone speaks to the sheer power of his performance. His unblinking stare pierces through the screen. His soft, calculated voice never raises in anger. The way he analyzes anyone in front of him like an open book. Lecter has become a cultural touchstone. When you say, he's like Hannibal Lecter, you aren't just describing a killer, you are describing someone terrifyingly intelligent who manipulates others with elegant ease. 4. Amon Goeth, Schindler's List, 1993. Every villain we've discussed so far has been a product of human imagination, but Amon Goeth was real. A Nazi SS officer, the commandant of the Ploshów concentration camp in Poland during World War II, and a man responsible for the extermination of thousands of Jews. When Ralph Fiennes portrayed him in Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List, the greatest challenge was presenting a believable human being, not a cartoon monster. And for this exact reason, the cinematic Goeth is more terrifying than any fictional villain Hollywood has ever created. One of the most agonizing scenes in cinema history shows Goeth drinking his morning coffee on his balcony, casually picking up his sniper rifle and shooting prisoners at random. No provocation, just morning entertainment. This scene was not a Hollywood exaggeration, it is documented history. Amon Goeth was captured after the war, tried in 1946, and hanged. In his final moments, he gave the Nazi salute, a man who believed in his own evil until his very last breath. That is true horror. 5. Anton Chigurh, No Country for Old Men, 2007. Imagine if death itself was given a physical body and sent to walk among men. No emotions, no personal grudges, no desire for drama or recognition, just a cold, strict determination to finish what he came for. That is Anton Chigurh. In the famous gas station scene, one of the most intensely psychological scenes in cinema despite having zero physical violence, Chigurh forces the bewildered proprietor to call a coin toss for his life. The sheer terror lies entirely in the dialogue, and Chigurh's absolutely dead, empty eyes. Javier Bardem's performance earned him an uncontested Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. The bizarre haircut, the steady footsteps that never rush, the eyes that show zero emotion. Chigurh represents a different kind of dread. It's the dread that follows you in broad daylight, the sudden, chilling realization that you were never truly in control of your own life. 6. The Joker, The Dark Knight, 2008. There are films that divide cinematic history into before and after. The Dark Knight 2008 was one of those films, entirely due to one character, the Joker, brought to life by Heath Ledger in what is still widely considered the greatest villain performance of all time. Heath Ledger locked himself in a hotel room for months, keeping a Joker diary, studying the character and experimenting with voices and postures. The erratic body language, the constant lip-licking, the gravelly voice, it was all his invention. Ledger tragically passed away before the film's release, but his posthumous Oscar stands as an immortal tribute to a role that will likely never be matched. What makes Nolan's Joker so uniquely terrifying is that he desires nothing that a typical villain wants. He doesn't want money, he burns it. He doesn't want power, he rejects it. All he wants is to prove a philosophical point. Humans only follow rules and morals as long as the world allows them to. Put them in enough despair, and they will turn into monsters. Some men aren't looking for anything logical like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn. The Joker didn't terrify us simply because he killed people. He terrified us because deep down, we feared he might be right about human nature. 7. Hans Landa, Inglourious Basterds, 2009. Quentin Tarantino is famous for writing unforgettable characters, but the Jew hunter Hans Landa is arguably his absolute masterpiece in villain creation. A Nazi officer who speaks 4 languages fluently, uses his intellect and charm as weapons far deadlier than any firearm, and projects warmth and friendliness in every scene, while you know he is orchestrating something horrific. The opening scene of the film says it all. Landa visits a French dairy farmer, sits with him, drinks milk, and converses with total civilized politeness. The audience knows there is a Jewish family hiding beneath the floorboards. And here Landa knows it too, yet he drags the conversation out, savoring his absolute control. No shouting, no direct threats, no drawn weapons, just a friendly smile and words chosen with lethal precision. Christoph Waltz was relatively unknown before this role. Afterward, he became one of the most respected faces of villainy in Hollywood, winning an Oscar for this role, and another later for Django Unchained. What makes Landa so memorable is his palpable enjoyment of his own wickedness. Hans Landa is the villain you find yourself captivated by, only to hate yourself for it. He is charming, witty, and charismatic. Then you remember what he stands for, and you feel disgusted by his magnetism. That was exactly Tarantino's goal, to show how evil can be seductive and persuasive. True evil rarely arrives looking ugly. 8. Thanos, Avengers Infinity War, 2018. Thanos is not your standard comic book villain. He doesn't want money, he doesn't crave power for power's sake, and he isn't out for revenge. He wants what he calls balance, and he genuinely believes he is the only one brave enough to achieve it. Thanos watched his home planet Titan collapse under the weight of resource depletion and overpopulation. He proposed a radical solution, was rejected, and called a madman. Then his planet died. In his broken mind, this proved he was right. The most dangerous thing about Thanos is that his logic is consistent and built on real, agonizing trauma. He isn't lying to himself when he says he wants to save the universe. In conclusion, today we looked at 8 faces of evil, but in reality, they are 8 mirrors. Great cinema doesn't just entertain you, it unsettles you. It makes you walk out of the theater thinking, questioning, and perhaps looking at the world through slightly different eyes. And these 8 characters, each in their own masterfully crafted way, are the reason why. What did you think of this list? Who do you think is the most dangerous villain in cinema history? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more cinematic analysis. See you in the next one!